Hey everybody, it is Kellen Nitro for Nitro Maniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited, and it's time for the final WWE pay-per-view of the 2010s. That's right, the last one in the decade went down earlier tonight as I record this, December 15th, 2019, from the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was tables, ladders, and chairs. 2019, no stairs involved in this one. That was earlier in the decade, but anyway, this is my take on the goings-on during the final pay-per-view of the 2010s for the 4,000-pound gorilla that is WWE. Start things off with Humberto Carrillo versus Andrade Cien Almas in the pre-show section of TLC. Lots of good lucha things during this, and Andrade with the double knees for 2 at a point in the match. The finish, an inverted Hurricane Rana and a moonsault gets the pin for Carrillo. What a great combination. This match was hot from the start. And you know what? The crowd actually filed in. You know, sometimes when you see pre-shows and that stuff and there's not much of a crowd there, this crowd actually showed up. It was pretty cool to see them, there. It's cool to see them there and in attendance off the start on this thing, which was awesome. So, amazing opener, top notch, and we go right into the bulk of the pay-per-view. Opening contest, a ladder match for the SmackDown Live Tag Team Championships. The New Day of Kofi Kingston and Big E Langston taking on the Revival, Dash and Dawson. This has been a tag team war over the past few years that has transcended WWE SmackDown for quite a while, and even on the Raw side a little bit as well. So now that it's back over on SmackDown and with the SmackDown on Fox and everything, it's cool to see that kind of come full circle. Kofi back though to working the openers of the pay-per-view. Hard to believe that a little less than 6 months ago he was the WWF champ, or sorry, WWF, get the F out, WWE champion 6 months ago, which is kind of, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Dash and Dawson bringing the heat early. Lots of plunder in this matchup. There was a moment in the match where Big E took a huge bump off the ladder and he tweaks his knee. That was a storyline going forward for the rest of the match, is that Big E's power was kind of subdued due to the knee injury and that stuff. And so we've seen as fans going forward in this match, Big E selling the knee a little bit and Kofi kind of basically working on a 2-on-1, and Dash and Dawson just, again, bringing the heat in this thing, and double team moves galore. Actually, both teams did some awesome double team moves. New Day retains off the top of the ladder as Big E fights off the knee injury and nails Dash with a big ending. That allows Kofi to reach up and grab the belts unabated with a runtime of... Do we have them tonight? We do. The runtime of 19:20. By the way, the opening contest of Carrillo versus Andrade was 12:45. So both these matches were awesome. It started the pay-per-view with such a great pace. Would it continue? Well, actually, in the next match it would, but... Next contest, Alistair Black taking on Buddy Murphy. Both these guys have kind of developed a rivalry on Raw in recent weeks. They've been building an interesting program on Monday nights, I should say. Murphy mocking Alistair Black by doing his pose during Black's entrance. Alistair's pose, not Buddy Murphy's pose, but Alistair's kind of cross-legged, sitting in the ring, meditating pose that he does. Lots of wicked strikes being thrown here. Murphy steals Alistair Black's jacket after breaking Black's nose earlier on with a strike. It was a stiff knee shot right to the nose. Ooh, you could kind of see the nose kind of like that when he hit it. Kind of ugly, kind of cool. Tons of heavy strikes after that. Great back and forth encounter. Great ending with Black getting the win via the Black Mass. This was after an insane exchange of kicks and strikes, I should say. Phenomenal. Both these boys brought it tonight. And this match was, like I said, from top to bottom, the match of the night, in my opinion. It was the dark horse match of the night, and it was match of the night throughout the card for me. I loved it. Up next, the Viking Raiders of Ivar and Eric issue an open challenge out to any tag team on Raw. Actually, any tag team across the board that wants to challenge them for the Raw tag team titles. Well, it was answered by the DOC, the so-called greatest tag team on planet Earth at this point, alleged by WWE, Anderson and Gallows. And this is where the hokiness began to unfold, because at ringside, a bunch of lucky fans are enjoying the match eating KFC chicken. Yeah, it was hokey. I have hokey AF as here, written here, I should say. It very much was. You could tell that was kind of like a metaphorical gun that would be used during this, even though it's not really a gun, it's a table. And this match was a decent television-paced match until both teams ended up getting counted out. And sure enough, Anderson goes through the chicken table. I have down, this segment sucks, and boy, did it. This segment was frickin' terrible. TLC match up next, King Corbin taking on Roman Reigns. A group of security attempts to attack Roman. They are denied. One took a very scary bump, though, through the table, and that would be kind of the theme of some very scary bumps during the night. Wait until we get to the main event. They kind of brawl throughout the crowd after that. Back and forth match. And then there was a callback to the dog food spot on SmackDown with Corbin hitting Reigns with the dog food. Just a can, just whipping it at him. Dolph Ziggler then attacked Reigns at a certain point during this match when Reigns was looking for a Superman punch on the outside on Corbin, and this just became a wave of interference that eventually subdued the big dog, and eventually, though, the odds proved too much, and Corbin gets the free count off of a end of days onto the steel chair. Runtime for this, and this scared the hell out of me, 22:20. They gave that 20 minutes. Youch. At least the next match was interesting. WWE Universal Championship. The Miz versus Bray Wyatt. Not The Fiend Bray Wyatt, but just Bray Wyatt. I have down in my notes, interesting here that it is Bray Wyatt defending the title and not The Fiend. So Bray's entrance music now is just the Firefly Funhouse theme, and he walks out like he's a children's entertainer playing Madison Square Garden or something. Awkward, yet fun. I liked it. And I actually liked the idea of Bray Wyatt being the non-aggressive, non-violent part, and The Fiend being this ruthless killer in the ring. It kind of plays off of the schizophrenia, if you will, of the character. It's pretty kind of a neat little gravitas to everything. Miz just hitting a ton of offense, and Bray is not getting anything in during this match. There was a Sister Abigail attempt in the ring during the first 6 or 7 minutes by Wyatt, but Miz countered that and continued just to basically ragdoll Bray in the ring. Finally, Bray hits a Sister Abigail outside of the ring, and then another one inside of the ring allows Bray to win, get a pinfall victory for the 1-2 free count. The runtime for this one was 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Bray then rolls outside of the ring. The Titantron shows a video of The Fiend, and Bray's like, "Oh, I'm glad you're here. Yes, I can do that for you." And he goes underneath the ring and grabs his mallet. The mallet that pounded poor Rambling Rabbit into dust some weeks ago on SmackDown. And Bray looks to put Miz away with this mallet with like a headshot when a burgundy hoodied man starts doing Daniel Bryan's moveset in the ring. Nope, it's Daniel Bryan circa 2012 with the shaved down beard and a little bit of the buzz cut. Wyatt escapes, so it looks like we have a situation where it starts to build, where we might have maybe The Fiend versus Daniel Bryan at the Royal Rumble for the Universal title, or maybe it's again another deal where Bray Wyatt will take on Daniel Bryan at the Royal Rumble for the Universal title. I would think for a major pay-per-view like that, I think this is what they're building towards with the Fiend character. I think it's going to be Bryan versus the Fiend, and I think Bryan is going to be gangbusters at the Rumble. I'm actually looking forward to this match if it does end up playing through, and we'll find out on SmackDown this week if that's the case when they start building that. But Bryan versus the Fiend should be, with everything now that's kind of transpired since their last meeting a few months ago, or was it back at Survivor Series, I believe, so a few weeks ago. I think that this rematch now, they just keep building that Fiend character. That's the best build for anything they've got in WWE right now going on. Up next, Rusev versus Lashley in a tables match. The winner is the man who puts the other through a table. Lashley eventually suplexes Rusev through a table, and that's for the 1-2 free count. The run time for that one is 13:30. I hope that this feud is done. I am not interested in this in the slightest, so moving on. Then we get into something very interesting. I think this has got to be maybe teasing the unpredictableness of the Royal Rumble match, or maybe a no disqualification bout on SmackDown or something for the premiere in 2020, or the year premiere, I guess, or something, or maybe the last television of the millennium, that, or not millennium, but the decade, I should say, that they're going to do, where we have a backstage brawl with Corbin and Reigns, and I think I've seen the Revival and Shorty G, New Day, Gable, Dolph Ziggler's involved in this. It might even end up being an 8-man tag coming on Friday, so we'll have to wait and see. I love the Royal Rumble spot that played right after, but I think it's almost Rumble season. Once we're done with this run of holiday stuff, New Japan does their thing, and then it's right into Rumble season, and that's a kickoff for WrestleMania season. So that's the best time of the year to be watching the WWE product for sure. And again, like I said, the Royal Rumble ad they got this year is phenomenal. If you haven't had a chance to go see it, they really went out of the way to go. Their production company really went out of the way to get it done, and I really enjoyed it. It's great. Main event time, as the women's tag team titles are on the line in a TLC match. The Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane taking on Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. So they're reunited for the time being. T Generation X taking on the Kabuki Warriors. Match starts off, at a very decent pace. Charlotte catches Kairi Sane early with a huge Yakuza kick, as Kairi was trying to do a either a cross body or something off the side of the apron, but she gets met with a foot to the face. Lots of plunder going on early on. This carries on. Asuka with a rope, channeling her inner Stan Hansen a little bit with the bull rope, which was very funny to see. And both of them end up tying up Becky Lynch to a ladder, enabling it to be a 2-on-1 advantage to the Kabuki Warriors. One of the more memorable spots of this that I really liked was Lynch getting her legs up on an insane elbow attempt from Kairi from the ring, or not even the ring apron, but from the commentator desk out. Wow, amazing. Once that's done, Lynch kind of, with Charlotte's help, gets out of the bind that she's in, and we get to see Charlotte and Becky kind of rattle off a couple of their old double team moves from a few years back when they were regularly tag teaming together. Like we're talking 2015, 2016-ish type vintage, maybe, like the double flying crossbody through the ropes, the double kicks, the double drop kick, stuff like that. Just real, the hallmark maneuvers that they used as a tag team together. And there were a few. You can go back on the network and check it out. Like, I'm not talking like they were anything like the Midnight or the Rock and Roll Express or anything, but they had some tag team, double team moves in their repertoire. Speaking of the Midnight Express, Lynch nails a Alabama Jam through the table and Asuka. And then the next little bit here, I have written down, I think Kairi got hurt off of the powerbomb through a table on the outside that Charlotte got her. I think something had happened before this, but the powerbomb itself, she was basically dead weight going up in Charlotte's arms and coming down. Asuka had to go over and check on her and kind of help her up into the next sequence of spots. It has been revealed via the Wrestling Observer that Kairi Sane has suffered a concussion in this match and will be going through the concussion protocol at Monday Night Raw, I guess later, tomorrow, still 30 minutes away here at this point, or later today, depending on when you watch it. So we'll see what happens. That could be a bit of a detriment, a little bit. It could put, I don't think, a huge kink in anything, because he's still got about 5 weeks until the Rumble, 6 weeks until the Rumble, so you should be fine. but you just built all this momentum for the women's tag team belts, and now it can be just thrown out the window due to an injury. It's just kind of, that's tough sledding, but it happens. So the match finishes up rather quickly after this, with Asuka fighting off Becky and climbing the ladder to retain the belts. This was the type of match where you had to climb up the ladder to grab the belts that were suspended and that stuff. Meanwhile, though, while that's going on, the brawl from earlier goes into the crowd. Yes, the brawl from Corbin and Reigns interrupts the whole after-match celebration of the Kabukis, and that's probably a audible called from the back to get Kairi out of there, and some medical attention looked at her and that stuff, and so they just threw everything out there. That's about the only thing that I could think of, is just go out there and start brawling. I think that was probably initially planned. I think they probably just sped it up a bit. And the final image that we have in 2019 and in the decade of 2010s is Roman Reigns, Vince McMahon's superstar that he's tried to build for over half a decade now at this point, just doing a Superman Undertaker-esque leap off of a platform onto a crowd of people, including King Corbin, and about 30 some odd people just flop down. Pro wrestling in 2019, everybody. That makes me think that maybe they had a little bit more planned. I think that they were probably nearing the finish of this match anyway. But, with Kairi getting hurt like that, you want to try and get everybody out as safe as possible, and that's so you can attend to your hurt employee or worker on the ground there and everything like that. And the exchange that kind of scared me was the exchange between Kairi and Asuka. They were talking in Japanese, but you can tell by Kairi's face that it was not anything to be, cheerful or joyous about. And she actually had to be physically helped up for Asuka, to continue on to this last little bit here. So I'm going to give TLC 2019 the final pay-per-view of the, I keep saying the millennium. No, it's decade. The final pay-per-view of the decade for WWE, a 6.5 out of 10. I think that it was a real blast show with a couple of high spots in the Alistair Black Buddy Murphy match, and I thought that the Andrade Humberto match was actually really good too, to kind of kick things off. New Day and Revival tore it down in that ladder match, and then other than that, everything was fairly uneventful to moderately meh. We got more storyline work with Bray Wyatt tonight and Daniel Bryan returning, which was great. And other than that, hope for the best for Kairi out of this, because man, I hope that she is healthy and able to go, screw this week at this point, for the rest of the month and into January. I hope that she's a viable member of that roster, going into the Rumble, because WWE needs her and needs Asuka as the tag champs, big time, going into the Royal Rumble. So anyways, that's my take on TLC 2019. Thank you very much for tuning in to these throughout the year. We still got some content coming up before the turn of the decade here in a few weeks' time, and that's we got Christmas coming up and New Year's as well. So stay tuned for some exciting content happening over the next few days. But this is the last real pay-per-view recap of 2019 that I'm going to do. So again, thank you for everybody who's checked these out, who's provided feedback, and so on and so forth. And this concludes really the last big wrestling weekend of not only the year of 2019, but of the decade of the 2010s. So now there's nothing really much to do except potentially look back, and we will do that in the coming weeks here on Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited. So stay tuned. I'm Kellen Nitro. Later days. Happy wrestling watching. We'll see you next time, folks.